At midnight on the day of the coldest day of that winter, when even a heavy snow warning was issued, my granddaughter showed up in a ragged state. After I brought her inside quickly, I called my daughter-in-law. "My daughter is sleeping beside me right now. You are calling me in the middle of the night. You have no common sense." She snapped and tried to hang up, but she accidentally pressed the speaker button instead, and I ended up hearing the unbelievable conversation. "My name is Agatha Parker, and I'm 60 years old. I lost my husband 2 years ago to illness, and now I live alone in a single-family home, with my dog, Max. My only son, Owen, left the house when he got married 10 years ago, and he lives with his 9-year-old daughter, Sadie, and his wife, Caroline, in a house about 15 minutes away from my house. Sadie was very much loved by my late husband, and she's always been Grandpa's little girl. She was very depressed when my husband passed away, but she is a kind girl who helps me take care of the flowers in the garden, which I took over from my husband, and she also takes care of Max. Of course, it's not only Sadie, but also my son and Caroline who were concerned about whether I was depressed after my husband's death, and they often came to see me. I was grateful to see the compassion of my son and his family, and I felt that I shouldn't stay depressed, so I returned to work, which I was taking a leave of absence. On my day off, Sadie and I began to spend time together working on our vegetable garden and enjoying baking sweets together. This spring, however, Owen was offered an overseas assignment. I heard that he said, "I'm worried about my mom, and I would feel bad if Sadie has to transfer to another school." And he was going to reject the offer, but Caroline disagreed. "Ever since you had started working for the company, you have been hoping to gain experiences overseas, and this is your chance. Don't worry about us. The 3 of us women will take care of ourselves." Caroline encouraged him, and he decided to take the offer. The period is supposed to be 1 year, and this might be difficult for Caroline and Sadie, but I decided to take the offer. I will do whatever I can to help Caroline and Sadie, so don't worry, I said, and I saw him off with a smile. However, Caroline and Sadie stopped coming over to my house completely after my son was transferred overseas. Even when I texted my daughter-in-law, either she ignored my message, or she just replied that she was busy so she will text me some other time. Max looked somewhat lonely not seeing Sadie, with whom he had always played together. One day, when all this was going on, while I was taking a leisurely walk with Max for the first time in a while, because I finished work early, I found myself near my son's house. "Since we are here, why don't we go see Sadie's house?" I said to Max. When I went to their house, I found Sadie sitting on a bench in the yard, with her school backpack still on her back. What is she doing here? It's late November, and the temperatures are getting really cold in the mornings and evenings. While I was wondering, I spoke to Sadie, and she came running happily toward me. "What are you doing here? Where is Mommy?" I asked her. "Mommy is busy these days, and she goes out often. I couldn't get inside the house because Mommy was not home again." While Sadie said that, maybe she was cold, and she was holding on to Max. Sure enough, there was no response when I rang the doorbell, and the house was unlit. Sadie said that she didn't have a key to the house. It was already getting very dark, and I couldn't just leave her like this. I texted Caroline, asked her to contact me, and took Sadie home with me. It was about dinner time, so I fed her with some food I had on hand, and she began to eat her food with vigor that I have never seen before. She must have been starving. While looking at her with a sideways glance, I texted Caroline again, and she called me right away. However, she was clearly upset. While I was watching Sadie, who was starting to fall asleep, perhaps because she was full, I explained to Caroline what had happened. "Okay. I'll be right there." Soon after she said that, Caroline came to our house. She was dressed in something I had never seen before, which made her look much more glamorous and younger than usual. However, her face still looked grumpy, and she roughly shook Sadie up and made her get ready to leave, but I couldn't let them leave like that. I asked her to explain what in the world was going on. Then, Caroline told me that she had recently started working, but she sometimes came home late because she was unfamiliar with many things. I said that she should have told me, but she said that it was difficult to tell me because I was a mother-in-law and not her real mother. Isn't that normal? A daughter-in-law and mother-in-law are strangers to each other, unless they have a husband/son between them. I thought it was a harsh thing to say, but I suggested that I take care of Sadie when she has to work late, if that was the case. Then, her attitude changed completely. She smiled and asked me if I could keep Sadie until 8 p.m. every day. I was a little skeptical that she was going to work until almost 8 p.m. every day, leaving her 10-year-old child to somebody else. "Please, Grandma. I want to be with you, too," Sadie said. From the next day, on days when Caroline had to work, Sadie started coming straight to my house after school. At the end of the day, I enjoyed spending time with Sadie and Max. A month has passed since I started taking care of Sadie after school. It was the coldest day of the year, and there was a heavy snow warning in the evening. It started to snow heavily around 9 p.m., and the house across the street was barely visible. I finished my dinner and took a bath early and went to my bedroom. Max usually sleeps in the living room, but tonight he was sleeping at the bottom of my bed, wrapped in his special blanket. I was reading a book on my bed, but it was almost midnight, so I turned off the light to go to sleep. I think it had been about 10 minutes, and Max go up suddenly. He nipped at the hem of my pajamas and pulled me toward the front entrance. "What's wrong, Max?" Then I heard someone knocking on the front door. I thought it might have been just my imagination, but I kept hearing the knocking sound, so I opened the door fearfully. There, standing with a pale face, was Sadie, wearing sandals, no jacket, and shivering, with snow on her head and shoulders. I brought her inside quickly and made her take a shower. While I was drying her hair with a hairdryer, I asked her what happened. But she just said, "I can't tell you because Mommy will be angry." Sadie said that she was hungry, so I heated up some leftover stew and served it for her. Her color improved, and perhaps she was relieved. She fell asleep on the sofa. I didn't want to wake her up, so I brought in blankets and comforters from the bedroom. And I let her sleep there. Something must have happened between her and Caroline. Maybe they had a fight. It wouldn't be good if Caroline was worried and searching Sadie around in the snow, so I texted Caroline, but she never checked my message. I had no other choice, so I called her a few times and she finally answered. Although I thought she would be very worried, the first thing that she said was, "What time do you think it is right now?" She snapped at me. I was intimidated by her, but I managed to speak up when I saw Sadie sleeping peacefully beside me. "I'm sorry, but it's about Sadie." Then, "What? Sadie is sleeping beside me. You are calling at this hour, and you have no common sense. I have to go," she said. Sadie is sleeping, snuggling up to Max. What is she talking about? As I thought about it, I was at a loss for words. I heard someone's conversation over the phone. Caroline was angry and she must have pressed a wrong button when she tried to press the button to end the call. I was listening to the conversation for a while, but I hung up the phone quietly while I was astonished. Sadie woke up early the next morning, and she appeared to be in good health and she didn't catch a cold. After we had breakfast, "I want to go to the school field and have a snowball fight, so I'm going home," she said and left. "I've caught a cold, so can you take care of Sadie for a couple of days?" Sometime later, I received a text from Caroline. I suppressed the anger that was welling up inside me, and I just texted back, "Okay." And I hurriedly started preparing for something. For the next 3 days, of course, and even after that, I did not hear from Caroline, not a single text, not even a single phone call. It was expected, but it still made me angry. I, on the other hand, made sure that I was completely ready. "I'm going to go take care of some business. Can you stay home with Max in the meantime?" I said to Sadie, and I went to my son's house. I then quietly opened the front door with the key that Owen had given me in case of emergency. Sure enough, there were men's shoes that I did recognize at the door. "Oh my!" Then I went straight to the bedroom upstairs, on my tiptoes so that I was unnoticed, and I quietly opened the door. Caroline and a man were lying naked on the bed in front of me. While I was taking a video with my phone that I had prepared, I yelled at them. "Get up already!" They jumped up to my voice. The man was flustered, glancing at me, as he hurriedly put his arms through the sleeves of his clothes, which he had taken off and left on the floor earlier. "Who the hell is she? What is she doing here?" Caroline couldn't even move, and only her lips were quivering. I said coldly, keeping my eyes fixed on her. "Can you explain to me what the hell this is all about?" Then the man who had managed to finish getting dressed started snapping back. "What the hell is wrong with you, barging in like this? Say something, bitch." He was acting like a typical thug, but when Caroline, who was looking down, said, "She is my mother-in-law," he became quiet, maybe because he finally realized that he was in serious trouble. Caroline, who seemed to have finally come to her senses, picked up her negligee from the floor and put it on quickly. Then she got on her knees and started begging. "Please! Please don't tell Owen about this." However, I didn't have time to be fooled by such small tricks. "Why not? You were saying that you would dump both Owen and Sadie to be with him the other day when I called you, weren't you? When you called me? What are you talking about?" She became pale. I told her that when we talked on the phone in the middle of the night, she didn't actually hang up the phone when she thought she did. I then told her that I had heard her and the guy talking about how they could have been together forever if only Sadie didn't exist, or how she wanted to divorce Owen and be with the guy as soon as possible. In fact, it is also a lie that Caroline started working. She told everyone around her that she was working, but she was actually meeting this man repeatedly. "We never said anything like that. You must have been half asleep." "No, I was not. My phone has a scam protection feature for elderly people who live alone. All calls are automatically recorded, so your conversations were recorded perfectly, too." When I said that, she got up suddenly. "Disgusting! You eavesdropped on our conversation, and you framed us like this. You're awful!" she yelled back at me. She was huffing and puffing. "Who did you say was awful? Oh, maybe were you talking about yourself?" She looked in the direction of the coldly mocking voice, and when she saw the man standing there, her body started to shake. The owner of the voice was Owen. I called him 3 days ago, and he took a leave of absence from work, and he flew back. He listened to my explanation and also the recording of the other day, and he sneaked in with me. "I don't care what else you did, but I can't forgive you for what you did to Sadie. You are an unfit mother." When Caroline heard that, she snickered brazenly. "Okay, that's fine. I have him, and we love each other." She became defiant. However, when the man heard it, "No, it's not like that. This is just for fun, it's not serious." He started making excuses, with tears in his eyes. Caroline was stunned, while she was looking down at him. Owen made the man stand up, and asked for his ID, but what he presented was a student ID, from a well-known private university. I was surprised by this, but Owen took a picture of the ID card with his phone calmly. "Oh dear, you were having fun with a married woman instead of a part-time job? Well, you'll be paying consolation money to me as a result. It was an expensive lesson you've learned." When the man was told this, he rolled out of the house in a panic. Caroline was watching the man leave in dismay, but she seemed to have come to her senses when she heard the door close with a loud bang. Her attitude has completely changed from earlier. "I'm sorry. I did it on a whim. I was lonely because you were away." She started crying. The man was a student, but he also worked at a boys' bar. They met after Owen was posted overseas, and the relationship started. I was taken aback by how quickly she changed her attitude, while I was watching Caroline pretend to be naive and cry. "Do you think that you are allowed to do anything if you are lonely? You didn't even take care of your own precious child. On top of that, you let her wander around in the snow late at night." When I said that, she didn't seem to understand what I was talking about, and she looked confused. On that snowy day, Caroline invited the man over to her house as usual, and after Sadie came home from school, Caroline just gave her snacks and left her alone. Apparently, she stayed in the bedroom with the man for the rest of the day. Meanwhile, Sadie tried to sleep, enduring hunger, but the room was too cold because of the snow that had begun to fall. She wanted to turn on the heat, but she didn't know where the remote control was. She became scared after she saw that more and more snow was on the ground. Sadie told me that she ran out of the house and headed to my house without thinking. However, Sadie did not mention this to Caroline when she went home the next day. "I'm speechless that you didn't notice until just now that your own daughter wasn't home all night during such a heavy snowstorm," I said. Caroline raised her voice to refute me. "I'm a woman before I'm a mother. I've still managed to raise Sadie properly so far. For that reason, do you think that it's okay to make your child feel lonely? If something went wrong, An irreparable thing could have happened. What would you have done if that had happened? Even when I said this, Caroline said, "That's why I'm apologizing to you," and she stamped her foot angrily, and it was no use talking to her. However, Owen, seeing her like this, had had enough, took out the divorce paper from his bag, and confronted Caroline. "I'm sick of it. Let's get divorced as you wanted." Caroline turned pale, and she grabbed the divorce paper from him. "No! Fine, I'll be a good mother. Sadie needs a mother, doesn't she?" Caroline ripped the divorce paper to shreds, and resisted, half crazed. Owen, however, only looked at her coldly, so Caroline had no one to turn to. Sadie would be better off, without a mother who would abandon her child. As Sadie's father and your husband, I can never forgive you for what you did. I'm going to demand the consolation money from you and that man, and you're going to pay me child support for Sadie as well." After he said this, Owen and I left the house. Both Owen and Caroline hired attorneys, but the divorce was finalized, as Caroline was at fault due to numerous pieces of evidence. Owen demanded alimony and child support from Caroline. Caroline's parents were also dismayed and they disowned her, so Caroline ended up taking on debt to pay alimony and child support demanded as a lump sum. The man with whom she had an affair was disowned by his parents in return for the consolation money that they had paid on his behalf. On top of that, people started talking about him having an affair with a married woman in his university, and he disappeared before anyone knew it. Caroline lost her family, parents, and everything else because of her thoughtless love affair, and she is currently living in an old apartment by herself humbly, just trying to pay off her debt. Owen, on the other hand, swallowed his pride and explained the situation to his company. His company was very sympathetic and agreed to shorten his assignment, and he returned to Canada. Restoring his spirits, he sold the house where he lived with Caroline, and he came back to my house with Sadie. Thanks to this, Sadie didn't have to change her school, which she is accustomed to attending, but I was still concerned that she would be lonely living away from her mother. However, she has been enjoying every day with her friends and Max so far. I will try my best to do everything to keep Sadie smiling.